Mhm.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Advocacy. We are so excited to have Miss Helen Giltz with
Yeah.
us. Okay,
Mhm.
good. I pronounced it. Of course, we have my wonderful co-host Bonnie. So
Mhm.
we are so excited. And guys, excuse me, I'm already put my disclaimer in first. We
Mhm.
are so excited to have Helen because she's a speech therapist. And as everyone knows, Morgan is nonverbal. So I hope that I don't take over the podcast, but I have a lot of things coming at Helen.
Listen, both of us.
Yes, that's right, Bunny. That's right. Grayson too. So one
Yes.
thing that we wanted to start off, one thing that I did ask Helen
Mhm.
about was what did CCC stand for? And she said it stood for Helen.
Um, it states that I'm a certified speech and language pathologist. I am clinically competent. If you don't see those C's behind the speech pathologist's last name, you better run.
I love it. And guys, I didn't even know that. Again, we are here to learn just like everybody else. So, Helen, before we get started, I just would like for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and then just give us a brief overview of you and your experience.
Well, I just completed my 22nd year as a speech and language pathologist with Dixon Public
Woo!
Schools. I was educated at the illustrious Howard University. I received my bachelor's in speech and language pathology from Howard. I went on to obtain a master's in clinical psychology from the University of the District of Columbia. Then I went on to receive my master's in speech and language pathology from Loyola University. So I've been throughout the district and Maryland, educated and certified, providing speech and language services in home health, hospitals, schools, outpatient facilities, you name it. And my specialty is autism. Because when I first started, I did not know what it was. I did not know what it entailed. I was just thrown in a classroom. And at that time, I was a student and I had a wonderful supervisor. Her name is Jennifer Beard, and she supported me for an entire year to work with our students in Baltimore City that were housed in a self-contained classroom. So we saw them grow in that year, and I said, I'm going to conquer autism. I'm going to figure this out because a lot of our parents, we were all learning together and we learned a great deal of how to provide services within the home to ensure that our students are progressing because it takes a team. It's not just drop your kid off to Helen and fix them. It's so much more than that, and you have to love what you do. This is a labor of love, what I do when I work with students, when I work with parents, when I work with teachers. You have to love it. It's not a job for me. I am intrinsically invested in getting my students, my patients to their most optimal level with the support of the parent and with the support of the community because I believe wraparound services are integral to supporting our children to make ensuring that they receive their most they achieve their most optimal potential.
Okay. I that's a mouthful. That is a mouthful. And I think as a parent of a young lady that's 20, I have to stop saying a little girl, a young lady that's 20, and autism is one of her diagnoses, but she has multiple diagnoses. And for me, just what you said is a mouthful. Ultimately, I think most parents, and of course, Bunny, you can jump in because I'm sure you agree. We want, I want to take that lemon of a that's considered her life, and I want to squeeze it to the utmost. I want her to get everything out of it. I don't want anyone telling me what she can't do and what she won't do. So
Absolutely.
what you're saying is something that is near and dear to me. And I think as a parent, when I see anybody, not just speech, working with my daughter,
Mhm.
I want you accept that same so I want you to say, Paula, this is what I want to do for Morgan. I want her to reach her full potential. And if
Mhm.
you don't feel that way, then you shouldn't be working with my child.
Amen. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Don't let me cry on this Saturday, please. Yes, thank you. I found my community. Everybody has to look at our clients and say, what can I do to enhance this individual? Because it's individualized.
Yeah.
Their services are individualized, their potential is individualized, but we have to see them as individuals and say, how can I get them or this particular person to their maximum potential?
Absolutely. I agreed. And I know, Helen, when I met you at an autism event,
Mhm.
you were given you were up talking about speech services. And when I talked to you about Grayson was only able to get a consult, you just could not believe that. And, it is something that in the school system, they will put the children on a speech consult, which means that you're not getting speech services. And if you're not familiar with that, you would think that your kiddo was getting speech services. And I did not realize that for 1 year, Grayson was not getting speech services. He was only getting a speech consult, which was, I don't even know if it was on a weekly basis. It might have been on a monthly basis as needed. And when I talked to you now, I had to eventually learn what that was. And of course,
That's what I was about to say, Bunny. For our audience, can you tell us what consult is?
So consult means that once I found out, it means that the speech pathologist will observe the student in the classroom and just see and talk to the teacher to see what if the teacher has any issues with that kid, and if the speech pathologist can provide any assistance. But to actually pull the kiddo out or have pull out services, that's not what a consult is. A consult is just they're going to consult with the teacher on, I have ideas on what I can help you with, Grace. And maybe you can do this, show Grace in a picture, and maybe he can understand by looking at visuals. So that's what Grayson was getting until I learned the difference on pull out service. Pull out service means that he's actually getting speech services, and they attach that to hours. When they work on his IEP, speech services equate to hours. So he was able to get a set of hours for pull out service, which meant that a speech pathologist will pull Grayson out of class into a separate classroom and go over speech services with him. So that's what I talked to Helen about. And there is a lot of students with special needs, different abilities that aren't able to actually get those speech services. So, Helen, can you really talk a little bit more from your profession about the differences of speech services, pull-out services, providing those hours versus you guys just going into a classroom? Because you said you had never heard of that before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even to piggyback and more defined
before we
consult.
start, because we get ready to dive deep into this. The topic is early, like speech therapy, getting into it early on. So let's back up a little bit and let's go back to speech services when you first get into it. And then we can go into the consult and all of that. So I think the support, you're saying that the importance of early intervention and support, because what we're kind of diving into is the fact that from Morgan and from Grayson, they weren't given the early intervention on the level that they needed it. So let's go back to early diagnosis, and then we can go forward and get into consult and the other stuff. Because let's go back.
To stress early intervention, oftentimes a lot of parents will go to their pediatrician. And to get a referral, to get a diagnosis, you need to get it from your pediatrician. And oftentimes parents believe pediatricians could diagnose autism and they cannot. Autism cannot be diagnosed by a doctor because there's no medicine for it. So doctors can diagnose ADHD at the age of 7, but there isn't medication to combat the autistic symptoms because they're vast. Early intervention starts from 0 to 3. 0 to 3. A lot of parents were like, well, I'll wait. And I'm like, wait for what? There's no rationale to wait. The services start as early from 0 to 3. And if you even suspect something is not quite right, do not wait on the doctor to state that, well, let's wait. Tell the doctor, you may not see something. I just want to quell my intuition and I need a referral. And the referrals are to Kennedy Krieger or outpatient facilities where a team of people test your child. You need an occupational therapist, need a psychologist, need a speech and language pathologist, and you need somebody trained in behavior. Because within that spectrum of autism, those are the 4 areas where you're going to see the issues. Does my child play with other children? Does my child use words to communicate their wants and needs outside of specific wants and needs? Did my child speak? And then there was a delay, then there was a regression of skills. And when I mean by speaking, I don't mean reciting songs. I don't mean echoing television shows. I mean saying mama, dada, going up to you, responding to their name. A lot of parents will yell their children's name and they believe that their child is responding. They're just responding to the loud sound, but not necessarily their name. So as early from, I had a conversation with a parent the other day and he stated, oh, I'll wait. I said, and I made a statement at the autism program about the waiting. You can't do that because the list is so long. So let's just say you notice something at 1. And if you don't get your child on the list, more than likely, it's going to be another year before they're even tested, even before they get their diagnoses. So
what list? Let's back up. What list? Because I will say this too. Let's clarify.
So the list consists of the list of where the doctor gives you the referral. So there's several agencies within the state of Maryland that the doctor will refer your student or child to, but just getting on the list to get tested or seen is at least a 6-month wait, at least. Because when I worked in PG County, I tested alone 250 kids, and that list was a year old, and I was part of a team of 5. So within that group of team members, we tested 1,000 children for early intervention in a year, in just PG County alone. So
does everybody have autism? The people that are getting on this list, does everybody have autism, or is that just all the kids that may have a speech impediment?
It's every child that has a delay.
Okay.
But out of the 250 kids I tested, 200 of them we suspected to have autism. So it was a huge influx, and that was in 2018. And my team members were testing numbers that high. So we would say maybe out of the 200, 25 may have had other developmental delays that they may recover from direct services. But the other ones, you need that in order. Okay, let me back up. So the process is, first, the parent has an intuition that they suspect something is just not quite right. My child is not developing at the same range of my peers. I Googled when they're supposed to speak. I Googled when they're supposed to do those variety of things. And they're not meeting those developmental milestones. You go to your pediatrician gives you a referral to your child find agency within your county. So everyone has one. Anne Arundel has child find, PG County. So within that child find agency, we can determine if your child has a developmental delay. So that's a broad description to state that your child is just not progressing at the same rate as their peers. So from 0 to 3, we provide supports in occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech and language therapy, and education within the home setting. Once you turn 3, now you could determine, do I want to keep these home setting services, or do I want a more structured setting? Do I want an IEP? And do I want my child to receive services in a school? It's clearly your determination, because school is not mandatory until kindergarten. I say get the services in school, because now this is a running record of your students' strengths and weaknesses. And at the earlier, the better. So from 0 to 3, 3 to 5 is when you get the more direct services. The direct services should always be front loaded. Depending on the severity of the disability, there should be no less than 120 minutes of direct services, with a maximum of 240 minutes of direct services. So you want to start heavy to see if they're benefiting from the services, and then you continue on. If you start low, you don't have baseline data. So you can never start with consultation, because that's observation. And to piggyback on what Bunny stated earlier, it doesn't necessarily have to be that classroom teacher. It could be any teacher that child is with during the school day. It's very open and it's very vague. And consultation is used for students who are ready to be dismissed from services, like our 5th graders, middle schoolers, never for our babies.
Oh,
So
wow.
what's the rationale for that? Where's my data collection?
Oh my goodness.
See, this is stuff that we don't even,
I don't know.
we don't know this, because when they said that he was only going to get consultation, I had no idea that I could have used my voice and said, no, I want to start with a set number of hours.
Yes.
Wow.
And your voice should include who's collecting data, who's monitoring their progress, what are they monitoring, what are they looking at.
Right.
None of that is collected in console.
None
Because
of it. Yeah.
An IEP is a data, an IFSP and an IEP is a data-driven document where the professionals are supported by the classroom teacher and the parent. And we're supposed to, my job is to collect data on your student to ensure they are progressing. That is the whole point of an education, not to just to place a child someplace, but to ensure that what I'm doing is effective. And if it's not, I got to do more. And if it's not, I got to do more.
So it's constantly like, if you find that IEP doesn't work, so it's like, okay, that ain't working, let's try something
Right,
else.
it is. But
Oh
it should never be
goodness.
that is not working, let's try less. No. When they're little, from 3 to 5,
Mm-hmm.
more. Until
I'm
we
so
find
glad you're
that.
talking about this, Helen,
Mhm.
because sorry to cut you off, but from ages 2.5 until about age 6.5, Grayson was getting a consultation.
Yeah.
He was not getting pull out services until I learned the differences of that pull out direct services versus a consultation. I actually one day I looked at what does this mean, and then at one point it went to virtual. After COVID, it went to virtual services. So this is amazing that you're saying that, we really have the right and the voice to ask for the data and to ask for direct services, which now is direct services the same as pull out from the classroom setting for those speech services?
So that's another caveat. Direct services on the IEP, it says individual and it says group.
Okay.
So with the shortage of speech pathologists, a
Mhm.
lot of our speech pathologists are spread thin. But there still has to be a rationale. Everything has to be rationalized. Why is depending on the severity of the deficits of my student, you always put it on the person providing the services. What's the rationale for the individual services and what's the rationale for the group services? And it can't be, I can't get to them. It has to be because he can communicate, because he can interact with his non-disabled peers. It has to be something that you can see. Does that make sense? But if my child is completely nonverbal and they're with a group of other completely nonverbal children, and now you're saying, I'm going to give them group services, and over a 6-month period, because you get progress reports, there's no progress. Now I have a rationale that this is not working. But if they're in a group setting and I see progress, it's working. So to piggyback on consult, it's like getting a doctor consult. It's just a discussion. So when you go to your doctor and you get a consultation, or when you go to any professional, they're not really providing you with a service. They're just telling you or giving you support. So to go back to your original question, direct services could be individual or group. So ultimately, depending on the severity of the deficit of the child, because this is all individualized, if my child is autistic, nonverbal, I would go for starting individual pull-out services, because then that speech pathologist is providing direct services for your child. It's not a group, it's away from their disabled peers, and I can focus on their progress. So, but
and
if
their
they
individual needs, because just because my daughter is nonverbal and your son is nonverbal, it still does not mean that they are lumped in together and given the same services.
There you go.
I love it. I'm learning.
There you go. Because everybody should be treated individually. If my child could benefit from because we use a lot of our higher autistic students who are more communicative, that person could support the other two, fine. But within that setting, is everybody benefiting? Yes. So the goal of an IEP is for the child, is for the child to benefit from the services. So if my speaker and he's asking Billy questions, and then in turn Billy is modeling appropriate behavior, all three of these children are benefiting from this model. But if Billy's running around like a chicken with no head, and somebody's banging their head against the wall, and I have to cater to all these behaviors within a 30-minute time span, who's benefiting? No one's benefiting. So we have to ask as a parent, as a speech pathologist, as a teacher, let's have a discussion. What would be the most optimal setting for my child? And if they say group, define why, and you put the onus on the professional. Why would that be the most optimal setting for my child due to the fact these are the list of their deficits? And that's when we come to the table and we can agree or disagree. And if we disagree, you can always state, can we start with the most for my child? And then if this works for them, we can revisit it. But from my vantage point, there isn't data to support that this is working. You got to use that D word, data.
I love it. This empowers our listener audience to really give voice to the concern over speech services, because I know that this is a hot topic at the IEP table all the times regarding pull-out services, direct services, pull-out services, and consultations, because it's always, they're going to start with that consult services first. And we had no idea that we're empowered to say, no, we want services, direct services, pull out services. We had no idea. So I really appreciate you letting us know that, because it gives us hope that we can go to the table and push back on that. Because that's something that's serious. There is a lot of children that are having speech challenges. Some are nonverbal, or just having some speech delays that, a consultation just doesn't work. Letting the teacher know to use visuals, it does not help to teach my grandson how to use words and what it looks like to use words.
Right.
And then also, I love the fact that you're telling us that we have the right to do this, but I think more importantly too, is that the parents understand the differences, because a lot of us, when Morgan was born disabled, when she went to school, I was feeling my way in the dark. If I don't know the differences and I don't know, hey, I can go and request this because I don't know what console is versus what direct services is or what the group services. So I think this is so important, listeners, because Morgan is 20. Do you understand that when I go back and look at, I won't even go look at her paperwork because I'm so disgusted, because it grieves my heart sometimes, because after all this time, if I met Helen when Morgan was 0, when she was 3, do you know how much further along that she can be? A lot of the times now, I still have not feel like we have conquered the speech thing. We haven't. We can't, and one thing leads to another, because she can't speak. You have bad behavior. Because she has bad behavior, she has anxiety. So when the parents don't understand, if you don't handle one thing, it's building blocks.
Yes.
And as they get older, it gets worse.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Helen,
yes.
I just feel so deprived. I feel like she's been deprived. But guess what, listeners? I'm not stopping. What I'm doing is, I don't care if it takes me a lifetime. I'm going to get Morgan that speech device she needs. I'm going to get her voice, so that when we do go around a crowd of people, that she doesn't feel like she's left out. So as parents, I do want you to understand, even if your child is 10, if your child is 18, if your child is 5, don't stop. Don't feel like you have failed them. Do it. Do it.
Yep. And I had to, once I learned, Paula, the difference between a consultation and actual speech services, I was disgusted at the fact that even in ABA, my every time that we had these meetings, it's like, well, what's your goals for Grayson? What do you want? Him to speak, him to understand, him to use words, and to understand this is a bag of chips. If you're saying chips, you know that this is the bag of chips. That's what I want. That's the goal. And I always said that, but then I never really went to that IEP to pay attention to what it said in that speech services section until I did. And then, he got transferred to the new school, and it's totally different there. There's more resources. So he just got his speech device, and it's given him a voice. Now he doesn't use it like I would want him to use it every single time. But because I pushed for speech services, he's now starting to use some words. He's starting to really understand that's a bag of chips. I want chip. He now gets it. So we as parents, we have to really push and keep advocating and fighting for our children. And now that Helen is letting us know that we have voice to do that, this is a podcast that I've been waiting for. And I'm sure that it's a topic that for a grandparent with a nonverbal autistic child, speech is always at the forefront of every meeting, every conversation, every goal, every target is always speech. So to know that we have a right to ask for those services without a consultation is amazing. Thank you so much. It's amazing.
Because we're a team.
Yeah.
The parent is a team member. Everybody, no voice is bigger than the other. We're all a team. And the goal is, what would it hurt?
I agree.
What would it hurt? Like, can we try? Like, we could disagree, because, you know, like family members, we could disagree. But why are we starting with the bare minimum, as if the child has to progress to receive the direct services? That's backwards, because they're coming to us with a deficit. So how are they going to improve with no intervention? So it doesn't make any sense. So when you're having these robust conversations at the table, just ask, where's the data to support that this would benefit my child?
Now,
and
Helen,
if they don't, that's the rationale.
I keep hearing you say data. Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Data was presented to me for my daughter at an early age. How can we ensure that this data that you're providing to me is accurate data? Because, and that was something people kept saying, data. But a lot of the data that was presented to me did not match my daughter. So tell us about that. Tell us, how do we challenge that? And how do we, because I think sometimes we as parents, we think, and I'm not putting the school system down, I love the school system, but everybody doesn't love their job and everybody's not committed to their job. So tell us, parents, when you see that data and you see your child and your data is here and your child is here, how do we dispute that?
That's hard, because autism doesn't manifest itself the same in every avenue. So oftentimes parents will say they can do this, and then we don't see it. And oftentimes you may not get the same speech pathologist from year to year to year, because of the way a lot of the mass exodus of speech pathologists. That's a hard one. So, and our goals are educationally driven, and parents want to see things that are socially driven. But to piggyback on that, I always believe in additional services. And I always implore my parents to get outpatient support, where you could get services in the evening and on the weekend. And that data is more specific, not educationally driven.
Good luck. Some of us, as you state, Morgan has been on some wait lists since she was born for speech services, and her name still hasn't come up. So like you said, speech services is something that is rare. So how do you, I mean, and this is where I get a little turned around, because we're saying data. We're saying, I understand exactly what you're saying. In a perfect world, all of that will work well together. The outside speech, the data, it all. What if we're not getting that? That's where a lot of us get stuck in the mud. Because, you know, again, whenever they had a conference, whenever they had resources, I was there putting Morgan's name on every list. And they would say, she's number 1015. We're at number 5 right now. That was for ABA. That was for speech. And again, she's 20. And some of them lists have never even surfaced to anything. So I think for me, I'm going to be honest, from my personal stance, it was frustrating, because as a parent, I was doing all that I possibly could, but I still wasn't getting anywhere. What do we do?
Unfortunately, the speech and language pathologist profession, as that a lot of us are retiring, and there's not a lot of us replenishing the field. So, but a lot of new grads are going the outpatient route, but that missed your child, unfortunately. So, but I currently work in 2 outpatient facilities. So I believe now it's going to be hard, because a lot of our schools don't have enough speech pathologists, and a lot of our outpatient facilities don't have enough speech pathologists. But if you can get in an outpatient facility and get individualized services in the schools, that would be Or like Bunny did, get a lawyer,
I
get
did
an
all of
advocate.
that.
Oh,
I
I
did.
didn't get a lawyer. I just used that pen and that paper.
Yeah.
And I used my cousin Google
Yeah.
and my cousin Chat GPT. That's all I did.
Yeah. Now I
and
got a lawyer.
and
She
Mhm.
then
did.
God, I tell you,
Yeah.
it's a lot of praying, a lot of Google search, a lot of Paula help me, this advocacy, this platform. When you hear something and you learn, then you just go a little bit further and you start that. I had to, once I learned from Paula and the advocacy team, I had to do my part as grandparent to advocate for Grayson, and I was what's best for him. And that's where I had to go. I didn't have that lawyer money, but Paula can speak to that one because that's a lot.
I had
And
to do that. I
different
did.
counties have different services. And I currently work for DCPS, and there's a fund for parents
Oh
to
yeah, you
to get.
guys get everything. DC,
Yeah,
DC give you everything. DC,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. If we can
What's that
transfer our
from?
kids to DC just for the services,
Yeah.
yeah.
yes, that would be awesome. But not for Maryland.
Now, the
Mm.
outside facilities that you work at, let me ask you, are there wait lists?
Um, I don't believe so.
What's
I
the
don't
age
believe so.
ranges?
Oh, for me, I have little ones like 18 months all the way up to 14-year-olds.
Mm,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, I
So
want
I
to see
think
how I can get Morgan in somebody's services. I'm not playing because
there's been a influx of parents getting early intervention. So I
okay,
have a lot of little ones. So, and I work in Laurel currently. So I see a lot of parents are like, I see something's going on here, and they want to combat it. So in Laurel, I have like I stated, from 18 months to 14 years old. And I work at another facility on the weekends, and
mm,
that's for about school age population. So, but it ranges there from little ones as well to my oldest is about 15 there as well.
you're in
So,
demand. You're in
yeah,
demand. You're like a cardiologist. You know what I'm saying? We need the heart. We need the heart. So he will
and like I
never be
said,
without a job.
Yeah.
no, and I love what I do, and I love what I do.
Man, when I tell you, I look back at my daughter and I tell you, it grieves my heart. It does because um, it's so unfortunate. I think we talked
Yes.
about this, Helen, is that sometimes they look at your child and they almost assume that this is the best life that they're going to live. So they write them off. And I think in a lot of ways, I think some of it is probably because they're overworked. And I get that.
Mhm.
But there's sometimes that some people just don't want to put the work into your child. And then I will say in a lot of the school systems, people are given titles that they are not qualified to have.
I
That's
agree.
the right. Say that. Well, say that again, Paula.
Yes, and I'm serious because there was a lot of people in schools that Morgan went to, and it was when I look back now, they were definitely not qualified to be in those positions. And when I see CCC, I never knew that. I asked you, what is that? You like you said, if you don't see them CCCs, run. Parents, run
Right.
because they got janitors that's doing speech therapists now. This is crazy
No.
because the need is not, and I'm just exaggerating, but because the
Right.
need is not there, because
Right. They're
the
putting
help is
anyone in
not
those
there,
positions. Yeah.
you really don't know who's giving speech therapy to
If
your
those C's are not on that IEP, run.
I've never seen the C's. Now,
I've
now,
never
now,
seen the
for those
C.
that joined us late, what are the CCCs?
It states that I'm a certified clinically competent speech and language pathologist by
I've
our
never seen it.
Never, never. I'm
uh,
going to go to my daughter's school. I'm going to send them an email to ask, do they have that CCC? I'm not kidding. I've never, and I'm going to say this, if I've seen it, I probably didn't pay attention to it, but I don't ever remember seeing CCC. Is that
All
just
I
for
see is the
DC?
SLP. That's all I ever see is
Me
SLP.
too. Is that for only DC or is that nationwide?
nationwide. What? No, you got to have those seeds. You have to have those seeds.
Now,
Yeah.
Helen, we talked about early intervention.
Mhm.
Now, for a parent that may be, considering or having some challenges with their kiddo, with their speech, what should be the first thing that they've done? They've gone to the doctor, they've perhaps got a diagnosis, but now they need to go to school with that diagnosis and to ask for the IEP to be created or revised. What is something that a parent could really go and empower them to go in and sit at that table? Because the first time I went and sat at the table, I told them, I said, I'm on this side of the table by myself. I don't understand all of this. You guys are sitting over there. I'm sitting here by myself and not understanding. So I'm a team of one. You are a team of 4 or 5. And they're like, oh no, grandma, we're all one big IEP team. But I didn't see that. So what can you say to a parent to empower them to go in and ask the right questions when it comes down to these speech services?
I would always say humble yourself, because you're going to receive a lot of jargon and a lot of information that is not germane to the average person's ears. And
Mm-hmm.
with that humility, you ask, and this is how I got through undergrad and grad school. Talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old. Do not use language and verbiage that I do not understand. It's your job to educate me, and it's my job to feel comfortable with what my child is receiving. And explain this document to me until I understand it. And then I'm going to ask questions. What does this mean? Who is responsible for my child's progress? Are they certified? When will I receive documentation on their progress? Who do I speak to if I'm not happy with their progress? Because you can open up an IEP meeting anytime to address any concern that you have about your child. Your child is your most precious commodity. It's yours. When you go home and close your doors, that is your child. You're responsible for it. Do not leave that beautiful, big responsibility in the hands of others. We're on a team. I need you to address my concerns. I need for us to discuss my concerns. I'm not seeing such and such use more words. That's a goal in the IEP. Where are they? Because at home, this is what I see. What do you see? Are there strategies that I can use at home so that we're on the same page? What can I do to foster their language development? Because the schools have a wealth of knowledge that they can impart on parents to support their child's speech and language development. Are the hours that we have, like I stated before, I want to start with the most. Starting 3 years old, when they get the IEP, we're starting with 240 minutes. No matter, because if I'm here, there's a reason why I'm here. Billy is not speaking at the same rate. Billy is not attending. Billy is not playing. We want to see play activities. We want to see speaking. We want to see interacting. And we want to see communication. If he's not doing that slightly at the same rate of students that are typical, we start with the highest amount of services. And what services does my child qualify for? Usually with autism, you want to ensure your child has 3 specific related services: speech and language, occupational therapy, and behavioral support that are all direct.
Wow.
All direct. All 3. Not someone that's just going to pop in and speak to the teacher. Direct services. Once again, speech and language. Speech and language should be starting 240. Occupational starting 240. Behavioral can start and maybe at 120. But it's none of these services that ever start at consult. No.
Wow.
So let's say 240. Can you clarify that? Is that 240 hours in a school year? Because we're doing
For the
tell us
month.
month, 240 minutes a month.
Mhm.
Yeah. Look at those
And
IEPs.
remember, some months are longer than others, and some months, some holidays run into those school days as well. So you want to ensure that although there's a holiday, although there's a school closing, they're getting their minutes within that month. If that makes sense. Because like December, we have 2 weeks off there. Spring break, there's a week off there. But your child is still owed what's on that IEP, if that makes sense.
Now let's say this, Helen. Let's say that they're in a school that cannot provide the speech therapy services. I do know, I'm just asking this because I know this is something that most people bump into. If they say, listen, we don't have a speech therapist here, what is the parent entitled to do? What are they entitled to? Can I know most of the time they can go outside, but I want you to tell us.
They're entitled to speech services.
So if they ain't getting it in that school, tell us what.
You take, where can I take, where will you be transporting my child to receive the services?
Because they are entitled
compensation or something.
Yes.
Or to go somewhere else.
Yeah, and you're going to be responsible to get my child there.
Wow.
So,
It's on that IEP. You are not absolved from rendering the services. You're just not.
You don't
And
care
we didn't even know that.
It's a legal document.
Yeah.
You are not. That's a school system issue, not a you issue. So this document states they're supposed to have weekly services. How are you? That's not my problem to solve. It's the school system's problem to solve. And if not, then my child qualifies for a separate day school that the school system would have to pay for. But the problem of resolving the services is not mine. The onus is on that school system.
Wow.
And
That's
that's
a lot that parents don't know. It's a lot that we don't know.
Because you're not in charge of hiring and firing speech pathologists. So that's not your issue.
I love it. That's
Right.
in any services, and I want everybody to hear this. I know we're talking about speech, but that's what behavioral, that's what occupational, that's what physical therapy. If at any given time you have a certain amount of hours on that IEP and that school for what physical therapist, she's on maternity leave. That's not our issue. No. Then how are they going to get physical therapy services?
Wow.
They got to give you an answer. It's not, oh, they just won't get it. No. So now my child needs to go someplace and that the school system pays for where their services will be rendered.
And that's considered as compensatory services, is that not?
Compensatory services are makeup. I don't want the made up.
Okay.
I want my services now.
Yeah.
I don't want the made up. I want my services now.
Because that delays them. Delays them.
I think Grayson at one point he was owed. They missed 4 sessions of his speech and language. The pullout when at one point when he was getting the pullout before he transferred, he missed 4 because the person was not available. And they was like, oh, we just still owe that to him. That's all they kept saying. Oh, we owe him 4 sessions. We just need to make that up. It was like nothing. They just was saying it, but I had no idea that I could have said, well, you guys need to send him somewhere else so that he can get these services. I didn't know that.
And just think about it. Would he benefit from old services? Really, would he? Because if we're giving services twice a week, would it be fair to inundate him with services 5 times a week? Would he benefit from that?
That's
you know what I mean?
Overwhelming him.
Exactly. They're on a schedule that he's receiving it twice. Now you're giving them 5, and then you're doing it only for a period of time. Then going back to 2. That's not beneficial.
That makes sense.
You want consistency to document progress, because how do I know the 5 benefited him or the 2 benefited? It's just confusion.
Yeah.
It's like old services. Like if I want to lose weight and I want to lose weight really bad, but I don't start till June and it's December. What happens from December to June? Am I losing weight? No. So I want to get in the gym in December.
and be
That's right.
consistent. And be
Yeah.
consistent. But you know, Helen, I just love the way that you're breaking this down in just like
Mhm.
you say, it's just like break it down to me in just layman's terms, you
Yeah.
Yep.
know,
Yep.
because a lot of this stuff, when I look back, I just wish somebody would have just broken this down, because what they did was make this so above your head. And
Yep.
then the lack of information you didn't know from that, and then the information that you did have, it made you feel like you were the dumbest person in the world. But I'm just like, I'm serious. If I knew then what I know now, oh, I would have
Mhm.
been now they said I was a force to be reckoned with, but it would have been worse. Mm-mm,
But you know what? Be the
mm-mm.
force.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you're your only child's advocate at the end of the day. And don't feel ashamed or embarrassed for advocating for your child. Because I am my child's keeper. So I have to advocate for their needs. I know my child. And even if I'm wrong, I'd rather err on the side of wrong and being a force to reckon with, as you used. That statement you used, for my child is my child.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, they used to use so many big words that I did not understand the language. So I would have my cell phone and I would Google what it meant so that I could appear that I was knowledgeable on the topic. And it shouldn't been that way. I should have been able to go in there, full transparency on I don't understand the IEP, and to
Right.
ask some of those questions that you mentioned a little bit ago on how to walk into these meetings and be comfortable enough to ask these questions. And I had no idea. I was like, what does that mean? What is, even at one point, I didn't know what neurotypical was. And then they say atypical. I'm like, what is that? And
Yeah.
then, the different terms that they use, I had
Mhm.
to literally have my cell phone there and I was asking Google while we were in this virtual meeting. And then I would say, oh, I want to go back to that statement that was made. And then I would appear that I was knowledgeable on that topic. And honestly, I just was not.
And there's a lot of jargon that they throw around
Yeah.
that the layman may not understand. And another thing you asked me, make sure they allot time for your questions. Because a lot of times they'll
Yes,
say,
right.
you only have a half an hour. Then we'll come back.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
won't be, I'm not leaving this table till I fully understand everything that's being conveyed and I know what's occurring for my child. Because once this IEP is closed, unless you bring up another meeting, you're not going to revisit any of these things till another year. Because an IEP is only good for a year.
I wonder if it's strategic for them to set these meetings at 30, 45 minutes to try to reduce the questions, because I always go in and I let them know, now that I'm a little more knowledgeable on how to, handle myself in these meetings, I always start with, I have questions. I have revisions to, particular sections. So I want to make sure that we're able to get through. And then I always ask for a minimum of 1 hour, a minimum.
Yeah.
So they normally will set it at about an hour, and then there's a little flexing to go over it. But yeah, parents, they don't know. We don't know that we can go in and say, oh, we have questions. Can we ask questions? Because they'll cut you off and say, okay, well, we're coming at time. We want to make sure that we can get through the whole IEP. I stop at every section.
Right.
Like, that's all. Give me 2 hours.
Yeah, give me 2 hours, right?
Right.
Because I'm not signing this until I feel comfortable. So when you have more time, we'll come back.
When I
But
tell
the
you,
onus of your time that's not a Helen issue.
Yeah.
That's not a Helen issue.
Mm.
This is
Yeah.
a school system issue. So we don't have enough time. When can we come back?
Right.
And then when can we come back?
They're hoping for no questions. They're hoping for not to have a part 2. They're hoping that parents will ask no questions, just sign this document, don't say anything throughout the year, and we'll see you in 6 months or whatever.
But who does that benefit?
The school. It definitely does not benefit the child or the family. It does not.
And one thing that one of our co-hosts, the other co-host is not here, but one thing that really Crystal talks about all the time is they start off as kiddos, but they
Yep.
grow up to be adults.
Yes.
And so what we're not, if you have a child that is not getting services as they grow up, it's only going to get worse.
It's only, I'm going to speak on that as well. We tend to inundate our little ones in the elementary school setting. So as they matriculate throughout our school systems, that's when the services get ratcheted down. So you want to get inundated and you want to get that strong foundation when they're youngest. You want to inundate them at that age, because once they hit middle school and then high school, it's less and less and less.
Yeah. Well, and
what I'm seeing another influx is what happens when my child graduates.
Yeah. That's where I am.
That's where you at, Paul.
That's where I am, Helen. And I honestly feel like the delay early on, it just hindered her all the way, throughout school. But I promise you, Morgan's gonna be a success story, because I promise you,
she is.
I'm not playing. What I know now, I'm applying it to her life, and I don't care. I'm going to ring every phone at her school. I'm going to turn over every rock, because I feel like she has been cheated. I have been cheated. And I feel like at this point now, I don't want any other parent to go through. I mean, and a lot of her behaviors come from this. She wants to talk.
Communication. Yeah.
Herself. And it's not fair to me that people get into these positions and they are not committed to these kids. It's sad. But I'm not having it. This is her last year of school. They gonna get worked.
I know that's right.
They gonna get worked.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I didn't know. And I'm just, not what they say, not knowing is not an excuse. That's not even an excuse for me. I take this personal. It's not even an excuse for me. I'm gonna get my daughter what she needs. I will. Yeah. I will. Yeah. And I'm just, Helen, when I just tell you, I could talk to you for hours. I told her, me and her gonna become best friends. Helen, I'm not even kidding. You might as well allow some time for me.
I'm available.
I'm not kidding, because I'm gonna get my daughter what she needs. And I just love the fact that you have just brought a common sense approach to this. My mind is gonna be, I'm gonna pull out her IEP, because we did have our IEP meeting like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm getting ready to pull it out. And if it's not where I think it should be, I'm gonna request a meeting. I'm not playing.
Absolutely.
It's your right as a parent. It's your right as a parent.
Yeah. So
and like I stated before, we're a team.
Yeah.
We're here to support you. And that's
what a team means, that we all share the same common goal, which is to get that individual everything that they need.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's what makes us a team. So I definitely, Helen, when I tell you, I just thank you so much. I know we've been working you, but this has been a great conversation.
I thank Bunny, because I feel like that community that I went to, I just felt like so sad that the parents weren't receiving what they needed. And it's like, it's information. Why? They don't know. I'm like, oh my goodness, no one's telling them. Yeah. That saddened me. Like, they didn't know. So
yeah, and that's what's really sad. And then parents don't know, and then the school system will intimidate them coming to the table to even discuss the IEP. It's intimidation. Even walking through the door, it's just, you see these people, they got their pencils and their writing pads. It's very intimidating when you are the parent. Some schools say you can't bring a person to, advocate with you. Some say you can't. It's so many different rules that a lot of the schools, they don't follow. So I thank God that I've reached out to Paula in this platform, because I've learned how to advocate for not only Grayson, we try to advocate for all those with a need, but when we are empowered with this knowledge, like you just has given us this knowledge about, speech services, to pull out direct services, and then to put a number to that, it gives us, well, I know it empowers me to go back to the school and say, listen, no, I want at least 200 hours and feel good asking for that, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, Helen said that we have a right to ask for these number of hours.
And they have a right to say a rationale. Because
Yeah.
you're not going to say my child is making minimal progress with the minimal amount of services.
Yeah.
You know, like you explain to me the rationale for the services. We need to be on the same page. We need to see each other. Like, I need to see what you see. So if you're saying because an IEP is supposed to reduce the achievement gap. And if I'm not seeing a reduction, but the services are staying the same, explain that to me.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point. That's a great
Are
point.
you seeing it? Because I'm not seeing it. So why is this the same? It's like medication. If this medication isn't working, you're going to keep me on the same dosage?
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Helen, you're dropping jewels.
Right.
No, I'm not kidding.
It's the same format.
When I tell you,
there has to be a rationale for this, and you need to explain to me your rationale.
This has been amazing. You need to make sure that we can don't you be blocking our phone calls, Helen, because we're gonna be calling you.
I'm always available because you, Bunny. It's because of Bunny. So
thank you, Bunny.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, Bunny. I appreciate you.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
My daughter has an appointment on Monday, and I'm gonna take some of these concerns there, and I definitely plan to just kind of. I'm gonna squeeze that lemon. I'm squeezing it because we're gonna make some lemonade. That's what we're gonna do. Yes, but I just again, Helen, we thank you for joining us. I know this is your first time with us. I'm sure this will not be your last time. We really, really appreciate it. And I think we were the right ones to be on here because we both have nonverbal in our special needs individuals in our family. And we needed to hear this information. Not only did we need to hear it, but our listeners need to hear it. So for those that are listening, please, please, please take Helen's advice. That's all I want to say is please take Helen's advice. You know, we're at Bunny's grandson is Grayson is 10, right?
Grayson will be 8 this week coming up. He'll be 8.
Okay, so he's 8. Morgan is 20. So as you can see, there's a big age difference, but a lot of the needs that they have are still somewhat similar. So I just pray that this was such a blessing to those that are listening, just as much as it was a blessing to me. Those are my closing remarks. Bunny, I'm gonna let you, and then Helen, I'm gonna let you close it out.
Okay.
Helen, thank you so much for empowering us to really be able to speak and continue to advocate for our individuals with needs, because when we don't know what to do, we won't do it. But when we are empowered to do so, and we know and we have the tools to do so, we can go in there, stand a little bit taller, speak a little clearer, and demand these services. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. I am sure that our listening audience will just have a ton of questions for you, and that they appreciate everything that you shared with us. So thank you.
Well, I want to thank y'all for allowing me to speak on your platform. And I'm going to always advocate for our children because it takes a village. We do not do this in a vacuum. This is an arduous job we have to raise these children and for them to be productive in our society. So if we are tasked with the job of supporting parents, that's what we should be doing. And I love what I do. Thank you for seeing what I see, Bunny, and I appreciate you for providing me this platform to speak. And I will love to come back and answer any questions that your parents may have.
Very good.
All right, guys. Well, we again thank you for joining us for another episode of Advocacy. We will see you next Thursday for another episode. Please join us. Again, we will have another guest on here with a whole nother subject. So again, thank you guys. And Bunny and Helen, you guys have a great weekend.
You do the same.
Take care. Bye-bye.